name is Jedi Master David, and with me as always is Darth Austin.
Hello, everyone.
Well, folks, we've got a pretty action-packed episode for everyone. I assume that this will take some time to get through. Let's just go ahead and start with a quick how you doing, and then we've got Investors Day to talk about and a new episode of The Mandalorian. So how's the week been going?
It's been wonderful. Nice and warm. Felt like summer again. Finally done with Christmas shopping. Able to relax all weekend. It's great. How about you?
It's been busy. I've been doing end-of-year reviews for employees and stuff, and that obviously has taken up a ton of time. And yeah,
everybody
the weekend
with sucks. I hate everybody. They all need to just go like.
Yeah, I feel you.
Copy and paste.
Yeah, I feel you. So, yeah, but I mean, nothing else really. I had to get a new battery for the truck. It, as the cold weather hit, it felt the need to crap out on me as I was getting gas. So that was fun. But, fine, I suppose.
Too bad gas stations don't sell batteries anymore.
Yeah, problem with mine is that it's not just as simple as uncoupling the terminals and just dropping a new battery in. It's under a structural support, so you have to take that off, which isn't a big deal. I mean, it's just held on by 4 bolts, but you have to take that off, and then you have to reattach the sensor. So you have to have like the right battery. I mean, it's a battery made by whoever. I don't even know what the one. I took it to a shop. He doesn't charge me labor, so he just charges me the cost of the parts because it's literally. I mean, for that, it's such a small thing to do for them.
Yeah. He gets good enough markup on the battery, probably.
I mean, well, honestly, not really, because I think that the whole job...
we don't. At my shop, it's pretty... I think it's like $15 for a battery. It's what we make, but...
Sure. But I'm just going to say this. Like, I mean, if I were to have bought whatever battery just down at the auto parts store, I probably would have been over $200 in taxes. With taxes. Not $200 in taxes. But I paid for the entire thing at the shop. It was like $168.
Oh, wow. Good job.
Yeah. And it's just down the road, and he did it in 30 minutes. So I just waited outside when it was nice out. So I can't complain. Yeah. It was good. It was a good time.
Right.
So, move past our interesting lives and into... into Disney's Investors Day. So it happened. It came, it went. A lot of things. We're just going to talk about the Star Wars side here. So let me run through a couple of highlights, and then we'll talk about some opinions. We have from director Patty Jenkins, who has taken the Wonder Woman franchise. We've got Rogue Squadron, the movie. The game movie.
Yes.
We have nothing more on the Taika Waititi. Still haven't really figured out that name yet. Sorry. Should. But
I think it's Tico Waititi, but I'm not 100% sure.
It's not Tico because there's definitely an A at the end of it. So I think it's Taika Waititi or something like that. I could be wrong. Anyway, whatever. Still unnamed, untitled film, so nothing new there. We already kind of knew that. Quick quote, his approach to Star Wars will be fresh, unexpected, and unique. So just talking about nothing.
I think really it's just all we know is, it's Star Wars Ragnarok. It'll be great.
Well, we'll see.
That's all anyone would talk about. It's like, well, we don't know anything, so you can only compare it to everything else he's done. Yeah. That's fine.
So just moving on, and again, we'll get into more specifics on each of these as we go, after. But a little bit more on Obi-Wan, Ahsoka series, Rangers of the New Republic, Lando, Andor, which we already knew about, the Acolyte, the Bad Batch,
A droid
Visions.
story.
Yeah, droid story. And then also from Lucasfilms, but not Star Wars, follow up to Willow, which a lot of people enjoyed that, but whatever. So just going through the list here again. So Rogue Squadron, obviously we got the game, which I haven't played yet. I don't. Have you played that yet?
No, it was on sale for $20 and I still didn't get it.
Yeah, I'm not super. It just seems so redundant. But it could be cool. I just don't necessarily think I'm gonna experience it. And they did have a little bit of I don't even really know if I call this a teaser trailer, but that's sort of what they're calling it. And it's just we see Patty, not skateboarding, rollerblading in, and then she puts on a jumpsuit, and we see an X-wing. So that's something
generic
that
as
happened.
generic can be.
Well, I mean, it's she talks about her need for speed and everything, and pulls up to her. I'm assuming this. I don't think they actually brand deal this, but her car so she can like take off her skates. I don't know. I mean, Squadrons to me, it sort of seems like the vibe, at least on like Twitter, they're talking, oh, this could be like a Top Gun, but with Star Wars. And it's like, do I really want that?
Yeah, I guess the director's father was a fighter pilot.
Yeah.
And so her life goal has been to make the best fighter pilot movie possible. So I mean, there's at least a good motivation. But
well, then write one. Write a really good story, because there are so many.
Don't take it off of Star Wars.
Well, there are so many like untold stories of fighter pilots and some of our wars and everything that could be very interesting. Or I mean, you could make a story, write one. This could be cool, but like because we don't know the premise. And it's still years out. We're talking Christmas 2023.
This is for that. This goes for most of these. Honestly, we don't know much about any of them. So
yeah, for the most part. But I mean, it's kind of like, okay. I mean, it could be interesting. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see on that one. I guess we can go through Obi-Wan. Obviously, big news. The return of Ewan McGregor, or excuse me, the return of Ewan McGregor. We all knew that. The return of Hayden Christensen, and specifically, they are saying returning as Darth Vader. Now, Kathleen Kennedy did say this will be the rematch of the century, but I think we were both kind of talking about, but how is it the rematch of a century? Are they actually going to fight again? And what exactly would that mean?
Yeah. And again, you can't really make the rematch of the century worth anything compared to the most of our fights. So it really would just be a waste of an episode or two if we had a fight. I don't care about a Obi-Wan Darth Vader fight. We got that in A New Hope.
Well,
I would like to see some flashbacks. I would like to see, Anakin in the back to tank, maybe some PTSD moments. We've got a lot more on Vader now, so I'm interested to see what they do with it, but I don't want to fight between him and Obi-Wan.
I'm not interested in flashbacks. I mean, if I get an entire Obi-Wan series, it's just rehash of old stuff. It's to me, that makes it worthless. But like, if you're maybe like, I mean, but again, back to your point, like doing an actual physical confrontation, I don't really know how you work that out, because it seems like, and again, like we can retcon certain things mildly, but when Obi-Wan and Vader face off in New Hope, yeah, that's a presence I haven't felt in a long time and everything like that. So I personally, just from like the standpoint of storytelling, how do you weave in that they met in between when Obi-Wan left him on Mustafar and then when they met again in A New Hope? Like, how do you tie that together and make it coherent or make it mean anything? I think it might be,
and
more
also
of
it would
something
just be
in the
kind of
Force.
weird after. Yes, I feel like, yeah, you can expand on the universe, you can add more stories, but like after 40 years, you don't think they would have mentioned, oh, by the way, yeah, they fought in between those movies. They've had other fights. Like, really, you're just waiting this long to tell me that kind of deal? It's like, yeah, you can retcon it in, but is it going to work?
Yeah, we'll see. But obviously, I think getting Hayden back is kind of cool. I think he was, not very well treated by Star Wars fans for a number of years. And I think that by and large, that's unfair. Because, I mean, as I've said before, I think Natalie Portman, episode 2 can be such a mess. Natalie Portman is a great actress, and this wasn't like her first film. I mean, she had been acting, and she had proven that she knows how to act, but there are times in this film where it just feels like, she's not getting direction. She doesn't really know what the character's supposed to be at this moment. So I'd put a lot of that on George Lucas, the awkwardness between the two of them. Because like Hayden, I think just gets crapped on too much. I think he did what he could do. And obviously up at the episode 3, I think showcased a lot more. Anyway, so that's Obi-Wan series. Again, we already knew about that. Next up, Ahsoka. We kind of both sort of speculated that there was probably going to be an Ahsoka Tano series written. We're saying this is being written by Dave Filoni, and limited series starring Rosario Dawson, executive produced by Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau. And I think that I had read that this is going to be crossover time with Mandalorian. Yeah. So I assume that the Thrawn thing that we saw in Mando is probably going to be relegated to Ahsoka, and then this is a lead up to the final scene in Rebels, and we still won't get to know where Ezra is.
Yeah. I mean, it's just going to be another teaser, unfortunately, and, the fact that we get this announcement and we don't hear anything about Rebels is a bit disappointing. Honestly, I don't think they'll resolve this at all. I don't expect them to.
I mean, eventually they will. So, I think eventually they most certainly will.
Through Ahsoka, I should say.
Oh,
through that, I mean it. True. With it being a limited run, we're not going to be able to go past the timeline of Mando and actually figure out what happened. So, yeah. But if it's big enough, they might decide to extend it and do that in the future. It's really up to the fans at that point.
Maybe so. Moving on, Rangers of the New Republic, also set within the timeline of The Mandalorian. Again, executive producers Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, intersecting
I believe that's
stories.
Unlimited. That's limited as well to one season.
They don't say that here. It just new live action series. It's possible. But it says will intersect. Says will intersect with future stories and culminate into a climactic story event. So yes, you're probably right. It probably will be limited, but I mean, I kind of wonder.
I see a little bit of Cara Dune in it, but other than that, I don't know really what direction they're going.
Yeah, that's kind of sort of where I was going to go to if this was going to be something with Cara, or I don't know. I think it might be a chance to establish some more New Republic folks. Maybe some pilots, maybe some ground troops, stuff like that. In the Outer Rim, we assume. Okay, what is the fascination with setting everything in the Outer Rim? And I'm not saying that's what this is, but that's normally what it is. And when we start to think about like Rangers, that's kind of where my mind goes. Like, why can't we do stuff in the mid-rim or in the core worlds? Like, why are we always focusing on the Outer Rim? Just because Coruscant isn't even really our capital anymore.
And it's really not focused on as much as everyone thinks. Everyone wants to say, oh, in the prequels, we got so much of Coruscant, so much of the inner worlds that we just want something different. It's like, we didn't really get all that much. I mean, Geonosis is not in a rim, and neither was half of the planets we visited. And there wasn't a whole lot of time on Coruscant. I don't mind Coruscant. I'd like to focus more on some of that stuff in a series. There's still interesting things in the underbelly.
Coruscant to me was never all that interesting. There was a series, and I don't remember if this came out in New Jedi Order or if it came out in another, it might have been New Jedi Order, like further in. I'll have to think about that if I can remember. But anyway, there was a storyline where there's a Sith temple. They opened the Sith temple on Coruscant. Um, and I mean there's differing in the EU, but there's a lot of interesting stuff there. But I don't know. I just don't necessarily know if I care about Coruscant anymore or not, but I think you could explore
Are you getting
more.
tired of the Outer Rim?
I'm not saying I'm getting tired of the Outer Rim. I'm just saying that it always seems like where we go, and maybe that's not what Rangers is going to be, but it just seems like we might, again, because when I think of Rangers, I think of like, going to new or less sparsely populated, out of the way, sort of like Wild Westy type areas, which in Star Wars usually translates to the Outer Rim. So I don't know.
I think when I think about this series and the lot of speculation on Cara Dune being it, the thing that I start to think about is we've always had one complaint about Mando, and that's you get an episode, maybe two, with all these extra characters, and it's great. We enjoy them; they're good support roles, but then they're gone, and then we don't get to see them again for another 4 or 5 episodes.
Yeah.
And it's almost just starting to feel like Mando is this great way to introduce all these characters so we can throw them into their own shows. And I'm kind of getting worried that that's going to keep happening throughout the next season or two, depending on how long we go with Mando. That we're never going to have a core team like we want, because we want to make them available for another TV show. So they can't be with Mando all the time. They have to be off on their own.
I think there are a couple ways to look at that. I think that the only reason why I'm not super duper worried about that is because Mandalorian still has an arc. It still has a story. If it were all just every single week it was fetch quest and meet a new person that we never saw again, then yeah, I mean that I could understand. But we clearly have story driven arcs here. So I'm not super worried, but like, I don't know, man. I mean, think about how many people showed up in Clone Wars and even, some of the stuff in Rebels and so forth. So, I mean, it's not like crazy uncommon, but yeah, I mean, sometimes, and I've said this a billion times, I wish people would stick around, like, and just, kind of do their thing, which is something we'll talk about in this coming episode of The Mandalorian. Let's move on to Lando. I think we had both sort of talked about, the potential for more Lando Calrissian. And the biggest thing here is that we do not have a confirmation on if Donald Glover will be Lando, if it's young Lando, if it's some old Lando, which I don't think is necessary. Although you had a good idea about that.
Yeah, I mean, my hope for Lando is we start off with Billy D, and he's chronicling all of his past adventures, and we get to jump back to Glover's Lando, basically getting the Calrissian Chronicles, which is something I think we both enjoy to an extent. So I think that would be a good way 4, to
Lando Calrissian Chronicles.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I would hope for in the show. It'd be a nice wink to Billy D and show some respect to all he's done for Star Wars. I think he should be in it to some extent, but I don't want him to be the focus. It would really limit the storytelling, I feel like.
Well, yeah, I mean, and this isn't a jab at him, but he's older. He's older now.
Yeah.
So he's kind of past the prime story. What are we going to get? Oh, I just arrived on this desert planet. That from
now I'm just going to wait for
Rise.
someone for 20 years.
Yeah, we tracked me and Luke tracks. Well, it could be like, but even with that, I mean, even with the Luke and him adventures, that would be interesting. What if Lando was like Luke and Lando adventures?
Would we want to introduce Luke back in that way?
I mean, you have to
That'd be
do it.
cool.
You have
That'd be
to
cool.
do it somehow. I mean,
You
I
do.
think have to is a big statement, but like eventually we have to explain what Luke was up to in between Return and the Rise, or excuse me, Force Awakens. We have to explain it somehow. I mean, we've got a little bit in the
I think
game,
it's
and
the how we do it that's the question. You know, do we do books or do we actually pull the trigger and either recast Luke or do a CGI Luke or do it through the perspective of old Luke? You know, how do you do that? Do you somehow get Mark Hamill and you try and make him look younger? Or do you just say, you know what, we did it with Han, we're going to do it with Luke?
Star
We
Wars fans have
recast
to get over the old characters at some point, the old actors at some point.
Yes.
It's like, listen, they're old.
Well, I mean,
okay?
we don't even have them all anymore.
Yeah.
And we won't have all of them for long, unfortunately.
Yeah. But I mean,
it's the passing of the torch.
At the end of the day, you had Luke, you had young Mark Hamill playing Luke in 3 movies. And then you had old Mark Hamill playing Luke, and somehow we're going to have to tell the story, and not everybody reads books. This is Disney owned, man. This is a Disney company, and if there's any money to be made on Luke Skywalker, you better bet they're going to recast some young man who can play that. And I'm sorry,
I would much rather
but
see that than CGI, truthfully.
That's the thing. I don't want to see an entire CGI movie. Then you just wind up. What was that movie?
CGI was really cool.
No, I think it was like a Final Fantasy movie. Do you remember that stuff? Long time ago. It was like the cutting edge of CGI at the time. I think this was like early 2000s, maybe, or maybe even earlier. But it was like everybody was CGI.
Yes, I do remember that. It wouldn't work with this.
I mean, you can make a very like Tarkin. Tarkin was super convincing, but he was like a cherry.
But we had small. That's the thing. We had small doses of Tarkin. We had small doses of training with Luke and Leia. I don't want more than that because that's just going to get awkward eventually. The more you think about it, the more you see it. It's just the way it is.
Yep, true. Let's move on to the Andor series. We obviously knew that this was coming down the pipeline. We do have some cast here. Obviously, Diego Luna, Stellan Skarsgård, Daria Arjuna, Fiona Shaw, Denise Go, Kyle Soller, and Genevieve O'Reilly as Mon Mothma. So we have some cast here, and I really haven't looked into any of these people. Skarsgård, I mean, I wonder if that's maybe I should actually look up some of these names as we're talking about it so that I have a reference point. Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, I mean he's been around the block a ton. I was wondering if this was the younger or the actual Skarsgård that I was thinking about. So he's been around. Hunt for Red October, Good Will Hunting, obviously Thor as well. So that's cool. But yeah, I mean, let me actually see if I can get a full cast list.
There was word there's going to be a ridiculous amount of support cast just from crowds and whatnot as well. So there's going to be a bustling city-based series, it sounds like, which will be interesting. I would say it's one of the bigger undertakings out of these series from what I've gathered. I mean, again, we don't have much to go on, so it's a lot of speculation.
Yeah, I'm not really recognizing too many of these people from face. She looks oddly familiar from something. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. Aside from Skarsgård, if I'm even saying his last name right. Oh, Fiona Shaw is. Was she in the Harry Potter movies? She looks awful familiar. Where? Oh yeah, okay, yeah. She was Aunt Petunia in the Harry Potter movies. I was like, yeah. I mean, I've totally seen that person before. Genevieve O'Reilly. Let's check her out. Was she? Yeah, okay. So she was Mon Mothma in Rogue One. So that's good. Oh, she also played Mon Mothma in Episode 3.
Oh, really?
Really?
Interesting.
And she voiced Mon Mothma in Rebels.
Okay. Makes sense then. What else has she been in, though? Because she does look familiar for more than just Star Wars.
A lot of
Nothing
things.
big.
Just a lot of TV. A lot of TV. She
Really?
was in The Matrix, apparently.
Huh.
The the sequels.
We don't talk about those.
No, the sequels were fine. I think that's kind of a bunch of.
Okay.
I think it's a bunch of BS.
They were okay.
Yeah, I don't know if I recognize that character. Of course, I haven't watched those in a long time. But yeah, she's done quite a lot, actually. So that's cool. I'm down. I'm down with that. Alan Tudyk. So we'll have K2SO. So that's good. Obviously, he still would be alive in this one. We know what happened to him. Anyway, let's move on.
For now.
Andor, okay. The Acolyte.
How thrilled are you by Andor? Because I know when it first was announced, we were both kind of excited about it, but I feel like the excitement has fizzled a bit. It'll be interesting. I don't think it'll be bad.
I think it's kind of the same thought about prequels for some people. It's like we already know what happened to Cassian. We're just building the character now. So as long as they do it
is
well,
he worth building that much? That's the real question. I mean,
I think
depend
so.
on what his backstory is, I guess.
I don't necessarily think it'll be like the biggest thing Disney Plus does, but I think it'll be interesting. It'll be a cool little series around a cool character. I think it'll be cool. Cool. So the Acolyte, you were more excited about this than I was.
The prospect of it, just from the description we get, so it's set at the very end of the High Republic, which I, truthfully, with the name Acolyte and all that, I think this is a waste of an opportunity to introduce the Old Republic. That's what I was really hoping for.
Yeah.
But they mention an emerging dark side power and the end of an era, so we'll see. Just the prospect of getting into the dark side a little more and something focused more on the Force and all that is interesting because we don't really get that in anything but Ahsoka, truthfully.
Yeah. I think there was some speculation. I didn't really look into timings of how all this would really fit, but the emergence of a dark side power, is this where we start to canonize a little bit further Darth Plagueis? Or is this maybe the rise of like Palpatine or like a discovery of Palpatine or something again? I didn't really look into timing of that, but that's something to think about.
And of course, we could always just tie right back into Mando here and just throw a little part in there for old Grogu's conception. That'd be great.
I doubt they will. I think my only thing is and I said this beforehand, is like we don't even care about the High Republic yet, like because we don't have anything. No. So are we going
as
to
time
care
goes by,
about it?
As time goes by, the hype just dies more and more for me. So I'm still hopeful that it'll be a new big chapter in Star Wars, but
yeah,
the fact that it's set in the High Republic doesn't matter to me at all. Not one bit.
Right now it doesn't. Exactly. Yeah. So
they need to show me a reason why I care about that. They might.
Yep.
I hope they do. But I was a little disappointed we didn't get anything jumping back into the Old Republic. I was really hoping we'd go there, but maybe it's too soon. That's a big can of worms to open. So
sure. Next up, we have the Bad Batch. I already knew that this was going to be coming out. They did put out a little trailer, a little sizzle, little reel, or whatever they want to call it. Kind of looks like we're dealing with, the Bad Batch being maybe mercenaries, but maybe a part of the Empire for at least a time. I know we've both been kind of like a little meh on the Bad Batch. I mean, they gave them, maybe a little bit too much of an arc in the final season of Clone Wars, but that was something that they had already put together, so that was
Yeah.
predestined.
And I thought about that. I don't know if it's so much I didn't like the Bad Batch because of the Bad Batch or because I wanted something else out of Clone Wars.
I mean,
So
yeah,
time will tell.
I get that.
I don't care a lot about them, but
that's sort of the problem. Okay, so they're different than the normal, clones, but I don't really see like a ton that I find incredibly fascinating here. But it could be cool. It's an extension of Clone Wars, and
yeah.
it could be nice. It'll probably be a decent distraction show, I would say. Next up, Star Wars Visions, which they are categorizing as like basically like the anthology collection will bring 10 fantastic visions from several of the leading Japanese anime studios, offering a fresh and diverse cultural perspective to Star Wars. I'm just going to cut in here and say I have zero interest in this at all. And it's not because I don't want to continue to bring in diversity and culture. My problem is I do not care about anime. And if this is going to be in the vein of Japanese anime, it loses my interest automatically. I just don't care.
I don't think you even have to say that because I wasn't anime and I still don't care about it. I don't want anime in Star Wars. I don't want, there's a culture for that. That's fine. They can do their own thing. But to make it a big Disney platform thing to make it anime, I don't get it. I don't see the point.
Well, here, I mean, that really it becomes, do they write it? Is it just the animation style is in the vein of anime, or do they do the whole thing with the,
dialogue of anime?
Yeah, the dialogue. Do you write it for an American audience, or do you write it for a Japanese audience, or do you write it for a worldwide audience? Because those are three very
Western
different
anime
dialogues.
versus Eastern, basically. Yeah.
I mean, in order
to
I'm just saying, in order to bring it to a global audience, you can't be too much of either, because too much Americanisms is one thing, but too many Japaneseisms. I mean, I think Samurai Jack. I think Samurai Jack was a good
perfect example
of something that crossed into a global market where it clearly had anime themes, but it also had the Americanized sort of stuff in there too, and it sort of could cross both of those gaps.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to say, please no one take this the wrong way. I'm not saying that Western storytelling is the best way and everything else is crap. I don't believe that, but in the vein of Star Wars, that's what we have always had, and that's how I feel it should remain.
Yeah, I mean, we're not gatekeeping. I mean, we're not closed to new ideas, but I mean, it's just like to me, so much has been animated, and it's.
And we actually had a Clone Wars. We actually had a Clone Wars series in the vein of Samurai Jack. It was from the same creator before the actual Clone Wars. So this has happened before, and it wasn't bad. I actually enjoyed it quite a bit, but I don't know. It's just the droid story is more exciting to me than this.
Yeah, let's move on. Let's move on to a droid story, which it's guided by R2D2 and C3PO. So I assume we're giving Anthony Daniels a little bit more.
And we'll be introduced to a new character, but again, everything's so vague. Give me something to hold on to, or I'm just gonna forget it in a week.
Yeah. So I'm not 100% sure what they're doing here because it seems a little garbled, but let me just read this. The intersection of animation and visual effects offers new opportunities to explore. Lucas Animation will be teaming up with Lucas Visual Effects team, ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, to develop a special Star Wars adventure for Disney Plus, a droid story. So is this animated? Is it semi-animated? Is it just... I don't really understand how they're going visually with this. I assume it's animation, but if they're Also, teaming with ILM, that means practical effect. So, are they like doing a
We're getting Roger
practical?
Rabbit. We're getting Roger Rabbit.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? I don't remember the animation style, but do you remember the old Lord of the Rings animated films?
Vaguely, yeah.
So the animation style in
I
that
don't
was
remember the name of that either.
is Lord of the Rings animated films. I mean, that's what I'm.
No, I'm saying there's names to each animation
Oh,
style. They
I'm sorry. Oh,
categorize them.
sorry.
So,
Yeah, we're in sync.
so yeah,
Yeah, we're in sync there. But like, there were times when they did blend in practical and animation, but I mean, that style is so outdated that I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, but it was a very interesting visual experience watching those. So I don't know.
And Star Wars can be all over the place with their animation styles too. I mean, just look at the difference between Clone Wars, Rebels, and drawing a blank on the newer one that neither of us have.
Resistance. I still haven't watched that. I don't. You know what we need
Yeah.
to do when Mando's over?
We should probably watch it.
I think we need to do that next. I think we need to give it a fair shake. I really do. I don't know why we haven't.
We do. I do not personally like the animation style.
Yeah.
It is a little too childish for me, but it might be great storytelling. You know, there's a lot of people who said the same thing about Clone Wars. I don't want to watch Clone Wars. The animation's
early
for a
Clone
kid,
Wars,
but it's some of the best. Yes, but it's some of the best storytelling in Star Wars.
Yeah.
I mean, in some ways, so it deserves a chance.
For
We should
sure.
try it.
So that was kind of the news for Star Wars from the investors meeting. I guess to wrap this portion of the show up and then move into Mando, is there anything that you would have liked to have seen that you didn't?
Well, again, I think I kind of touched on that a little bit with Old Republic, but that's a bit of a pipe dream for right now. So if there was anything else, something, I think it would be cool to focus on a new Jedi Padawan, personally. Someone that we haven't seen before, maybe set, I don't want to say High Republic, but now I have to say High Republic, sometime before, Phantom Menace. Just a character that no one knows about, something like Kyle Kestis would have been, going through his storyline as a kid. That would have been interesting. Again, we didn't get much Jedi at all, which is why I'm focusing so much on Acolyte, I think. But I don't know. I don't know what I was expecting, truthfully, going into this. So I can't say I'm disappointed because of what I didn't get. I can only say I'm disappointed in how little content we were shared on everything as a whole.
Yeah. I was actually going to say a Cal Kestis series, like Jedi Fallen Order, the series.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy isn't, he was mocapped and designed after a real actor. So you just get the real guy.
Easily.
And then you have Saber merch because those.
Just don't kill him and just don't kill him in the second game and we're fine. We could still have that.
Yeah. And the game had supporting characters. So you could, I think you continue it after the events of Fallen Order. The only issue is that you're gonna have a second game potentially. So I would say do a limited tie-in series in between the two games, and then it's a merch grab.
Assuming there's a time jump, that would be easy to do.
Yeah, listen,
really would, and it could easily tie into Mando if they decide to have him be someone who contacts Baby Yoda.
I don't think you do that personally. I get you're right. You're right. It would be very easy. I think we need to stop the tie-in stuff. But all I'm saying is it's a huge merch grab. The saber, the little robot. I mean, I'm just saying that
they did not. I mean, that was as much of a waste of potential as Baby Yoda was. I feel like at the beginning there was nothing for that game.
Yeah, I mean it's the problem. They shot the shot on the game. It wound up being very popular. People really liked it. It was well received.
The droid's so cool.
I know. I mean, look at how many animatronic little BB-8s there are out there, or R2D2s. I think you
Yeah.
could easily make like a little, walking thing. Make it walk,
Yeah.
like a remote
They
control
have,
walkie deal. Maybe they have that. I
well,
don't
there's
know.
if you go to the Disney store, they actually have it's a little wrist controller, and you buy a Baby Yoda, and he follows you around, and you use your wrist
Yeah,
controller to get him to follow
yeah,
you. He's synced to it, so he'll go towards it. You could easily do that with that droid,
yeah,
easily,
yeah.
and it'd be easier to make him walk.
Yeah, we're just looking out for our Disney checks. You know, we're trying to look out for our
Yeah,
bottom line. You know, the more we sell, the
that's
more
right.
we get. Right? Is that still the deal that
Yeah,
we have with Disney? Sell out a little bit
exactly.
more. Okay, good. All right, let's
We're
go ahead.
true Disney investors.
Yeah. Let's go
This is
ahead
our
and roll.
investor day.
Right. Let's go ahead and roll into Mando here. So we are at season 2, episode 7, chapter 15, The Believer, I believe is what it was called, correct?
Yes,
And
so yes.
we're going to speculate about the title because I have some thoughts on it. But we obviously got in our previous episode that we're looking for Mayfeld. And we wind up on this. I don't remember the planet that he was on. I know they mentioned it in the previous episode, but he's cutting up. Looks like we had some old TIE fighters. And how'd you like the crane, AT-AT crane? The Walker
Yeah,
crane.
yeah, it's pretty cool. And again, this kind of goes back a bit to Jedi Fallen Order, because when you
Yep.
start the game out, you're actually doing that. You're tearing apart all these old ships and whatnot. So it's really cool.
It
I
was.
like
It
the
was.
visual
Yeah.
effects of this. The droids they used for this were pretty cool too.
Yeah. The security droid with his little stun baton.
Yeah.
Even the prisoner uniforms were kind of interesting. They have little. I don't know what this like almost like a comm sort of panel thing on the little lights and all that. I don't know exactly what the usage of that is here, but
Probably a tracking chip, I'd assume, or something
well,
like
he
that.
had the anklet, so I assume
Mhm.
that anyway. It's kind of a neat little uniform and different. They put some thought into it. We do get Marshall Dune popping back up. Retrieving
Soon
Mayfeld.
to be Ranger too.
Marshall Ranger Dune. And
Had to bend a lot of rules. And also, just want to throw it out there, I know neither of us are the biggest Boba Fett fans, but they did great with his armor in this episode.
I was going to ask you about that because obviously, we lead up, we see Boba's ship, which they still haven't called Slave 1 yet, or Slave 2, or hopefully renamed. But
Slave 8 by now.
yeah,
He's gone through a lot of ships.
so we get Fennec, and then we also get Boba coming out, and he is clean polished again. Repaint, he's still got the dent in the helmet, but everything else, everything else, even his rifle looks new. So everything on Boba looks new. What did you think about that?
It's pretty quick. Of course, I don't know what the time jump is on, so it's a little weird seeing this already. I was kind of hoping one more episode of beat up Boba, but I appreciated it. I thought they did a really good job with the armor.
I kind of wondered why they would. I kind of thought that they were going to keep it battle scarred.
Nostalgia, I think. I think that's the only reason.
Yeah, but it does look good. I mean, there's certainly nothing wrong with it. We still have a couple pock marks in the chest plating and so forth. So it's certainly not like fully repaired, but it's got a fresh coat of green paint. But some of the comedy aspect of things here with Burr and you kind of look like somebody, and then Mando comes down. And I'll tell you one thing though that I noticed real quick is that they definitely retooled Bill Burr's or Mayfeld's personality from his original release. Well, first and foremost, he's a former Imperial. We've now sussed that out. And obviously that's why Kara hates him here in the beginning. But, he seems more, deferent. He seems like there's no real arrogance or anything here. He seems like he's definitely been knocked down quite a bit. And maybe he's got a little bit more remorse for things. So I thought that was interesting.
Compassion as well, I would say.
Yeah, because the little green guy, because even when, they sort of tell him what they're doing, he's like, everybody for some reason when maybe that's the true the true power of their species. Everybody cares about them so much.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you think about the rotating ship? The internals of the ship, of Boba's ship.
That was never a thing, was it?
Well, I mean,
to an extent, you have to have that when you change positions for flying, but not the entirety of the ship.
To be honest, I really don't remember, but you have to think about the ergonomics of the ship. It obviously flies vertically, but then when it lands effectively like sort of on its back, like you're like a person laying down in a bed. So in order for that to make sense.
There's even a scene for that, though, because later on in the episode, they show before he takes off laying down in his seat based on the camera angle. And then he picks up the ship and then he's upright. So to me, I don't understand it personally. I don't know if that was just kind of a, oops, I didn't think about that moment or what, but
I think you have to suspend certain belief, but again, think about it a little bit this way. When it's laying down, you're going up your on-ramp, and if you were to sit in a seated position then, you would effectively spend your entire voyage just like, basically laying down. Yeah. So you have to have some sort of reorientation, right? I mean, or that would be a very uncomfortable ride.
I guess I always assumed that it was just his pilot chair that did that, not the entirety of the inside of the ship.
Yeah, and I kind of wonder if that's
like it'd be a lot easier.
Right. Right.
It's not a perfect spherical enclosure, so how that works to me,
I think you have to.
Logistically, it doesn't make sense. So we just need to stop thinking about it.
Yeah, suspend disbelief a little bit and just sort of let it ride out. But no, I'm with you. I thought it was interesting that they were showing that, but kind of is what it is. So anyway, furthering the story, they are attempting to use Mayfeld to find coordinates for Moff Gideon. And then we have to go to Morak, another planet, to access a console. And
Morak, there's nothing on Morak.
Yeah, which I thought was interesting. There's nothing on Morak, and then very clearly there's a ton going on Morak.
Sure there is. We just hid it from you very well.
Yeah. So we go to Morak, and I want to harp on this just a little bit more. We talked about it vaguely in last week's episode. Boba Fett and Fennec are just there for this ride. You know, does that seem weird yet,
or dies?
Or are we just cool? We're just cool with this, right? We're not questioning anything, any other motives. We're still just fine with them along for the ride.
It's difficult to say because I just can't tell if they've retooled the characters or if they really are setting up for a major betrayal.
Mm-hmm.
Boba Fett screwed over main characters to the Empire before.
Yeah.
So it easily could do it again. But
I will say this.
The way that the fear he shows towards the Empire makes me think that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But that's not the only people he could betray them to, obviously.
I will say this, though. There is literature out there in the old EU where, Boba even kind of in a way respects Han Solo. But he's still going to do the job because that's what he does. But he didn't necessarily hate Han Solo, but he didn't like him either. So there's personality. But if you're just looking at it from, movies and shows and stuff, he just sort of seems like a really nefarious kind of bad guy-ish character. But when you really start to read more into it, it's different. I mean, there is some personality. So I think that they've just retooled it to make him more sympathetic. I think he's, like you said, ride or die, man. Him and Fennec are just, they're there for this. They're ready to rock and roll. I like seeing the crew.
And I'm definitely okay with Fennec because I want more Fennec. I mean, she's a very compelling character, and I want her to be a good guy in a way. So, and her and Kara in this episode make a great team. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, I have a few issues with Fennec, not because of the character, but just because of how they sort of were writing her. She's an assassin. She's a killer. Mm-hmm. But one shot in the abdomen and she's completely reformed. I don't know. Because we don't have, well, yeah, I mean, we don't really have the backstory about so how did she get to this point? Because we see that in Aftermath with our bounty hunter in Aftermath. What was her name? I'm sorry, I can't remember it.
Yeah.
But anyway, she didn't really want to be a bounty hunter. It's just kind of like we got her backstory and that she was sort of forced into it, to pay off debts from her family. And she's really a good person, but she does some ruthless things because, that's the world. But anyway, we get our plan, right? We get a plan. We arrive in the planet. We've got, Rhydonium that the Empire is mining and using here. And they're using these kind of crawlers to go through on this road. And they hijack one. And there's the whole, who's going to go with Mayfeld? Who can possibly go, right?
I'm wanted. I'm wanted too. I'm wanted. You're not, but you can't take your mask off.
I'm wanted 3, Yeah, so Mando and Mayfeld. Mando has to take off his armor, and we get our trooper armor here. How cool is it to see so many different trooper armors in this?
It is, and this is a new armor that he's wearing, isn't it? Specifically before this, I don't recognize it. I mean, it kind of looks like the snowtrooper armor a bit. At least the helmet does, but yeah, I don't know. It just seems new to me.
Let me see if I can find a list of armors, because we get to see a few different ones here, and one of them was introduced in Rogue One. And of course, it's not like I can automatically bring up a list of all Stormtrooper armor, right?
That'd be far too easy.
Well, we prepare a lot for this show, and we don't prepare for anything here, do we? Well, at any rate, I don't know that I've seen this particular armor. No, I don't know that I've seen that before. But it's what is it? The Sand Troopers.
Quite a few variations of regular, generic Stormtrooper armor. We get the Sand Trooper. We get
not Sand Troopers. Yeah, no, okay. It is a Sand Trooper, but it just all depends, because a Sand Trooper in episode 6 was different than later. The helmet is essentially very reminiscent of the Sand Trooper. It's actually almost darn near spot on. It's just different color. It's more gray than the sort of tan or white that it became. I really need to reverse myself again in some of the trooper armors, but anyway, not today. So we get the hijack of our crawler. Mayfeld gets to make a lot of jokes in this particular episode. One of them being, can't see anything out of this helmet, so he doesn't wear the helmet.
Yeah.
Which continuing that joke.
Yeah.
Then we get to go through the village here, little village with a vast array of different people in it. This is one of the most culturally diverse villages I've ever seen, which is interesting. I mean, it's good. No, it's not bad. It's just wow, we have represented every single person here. This is the most diverse place I've ever seen. you know? So, you know how we've made jokes about the walking in like season 1, like Mando walking shots? There is a lot of like Mayfeld and Mando conversation in this crawler, just like crawling along.
There is.
You know,
if you could call a conversation.
True. Basic, yeah.
It's more like Mayfeld talking at Mando.
Yeah. You know, we're like the same thing. No, we're not. No. Let me explain to you why we are the same. Okay, you know, we're
and then I'll explain it to you again in 5 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad Bill Burr's back though. I like the character. I like the character a lot better now. So then we get our hijack attempts from these pirates on their little speeder platform things that look like a hand cart from a
Jabba
Lowe's,
Palace
you know.
Ones just a crappy version of the Jabba Palace.
Yeah. And you know, they're basically trying to blow up these crawlers. And did you have any sort of issue with Mando?
We don't know why. We really don't know why.
Do you have any issue with like Mando?
Pirates tend to loot things, not destroy them.
True. Yeah, it seems like more they're fighting the Empire, but like Mando just like killed like 3 dozen of them.
Yeah. There's one thing I do want to say. I didn't have any interest in the spear that Mando gets until this episode. Now that I've seen him fight with essentially a spear.
Spear fighting's cool.
I want to see that.
I mean, obviously we had the Game of Thrones stuff with Pedro facing the mountain. So, I mean, spear fighting can be neat. It's an interesting weapon to bring up in here. And also, I also wanted to bring this up too. So he doesn't have his Mando armor. 2 things I want to bring up. 1, how many times can we do the Austin Powers joke where these folks get bumped off and they get ran over? And then 2,
did you catch that? Yeah, with the nice crunch.
Yeah. And then 2, we see Mando kind of relying on the armor to take blows, and he's clearly hurt towards the end of this. So it's like, maybe you need to realize what armor you're wearing, and it's not Beskar anymore. It's just trooper armor, and it's not going to give you that same,
I mean, you get used to it though, honestly, after a lifetime of wearing something that automatically protects you.
True.
I guess I could understand that, but you're still vulnerable with that armor because you still have, joints, weak spots for your joints. So you'd think you'd be a little bit more careful.
Yeah, for sure. I like the hand-to-hand combat here. I thought this was choreographed really, really well.
We haven't seen something like this since the last Bill Burr episode, actually. Yeah. So I really appreciated that.
Same here. And again, keeping with the realism of fighting, nothing seemed overly sensational. It all seemed very fluid.
Or easy.
Yeah. And I'll say that I think, again, I've never made a movie before and never will, but I think these spears were like really fat. Like they were fat.
Yeah.
And you could kind of tell in some of the motions and everything, but it still looked really good and fluid. I really enjoyed that quite a bit. Oh, God. So I also, guys at home, guys and gals at home, I also bring up the episode, so I slowly watch it, as we're going through this. We do have a preoccupation at times in Star Wars of showing like people blowing up. And like the death face of one of our pirates here as he's getting blown up. And then another thing, what's up with this like almost like West Side Story, like everybody's snapping on all their detonators. It reminded me so much of that stupid gang scene where they come in and they're snapping and I don't know, it looked kind of goofy. And they're all armed.
It's just like you must be desperate at this point if you're just gonna all chuck your detonators at once. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, and of course they're very close to the outpost, and we get a couple of TIE fighters coming in and taking care of the pirates, and then which
was epic.
Yeah, it was. Well, you know, and I think that this was like a nod to the folks who kind of appreciate the emperor, the empire. You know, the 501st and all these people, and they gave the stormtroopers a kind of an epic thing where they hit everything that they aimed at, and the
Yeah.
detonators that the pirates had that they didn't throw didn't blow up. So I thought that was a bit of a miss,
Yeah.
but
You know, there's something about that too. One loves to make jokes about stormtroopers, how they have the worst aim possible, and you know they're useless. I enjoy scenes like this where stormtroopers are the elite fighters that they actually are. Two reasons. One, don't tell me that the Emperor and Darth Vader are going to be okay with a bunch of incompetent buffoons who can't hit the broadside of a barn.
Yep.
There's no way that's going to happen. And two, if they're useless, it kind of diminishes how awesome our cast of heroes are for defeating them.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I appreciate this kind of.
Yeah. Yep. I think the when they bring in the crawler and you have the celebration, you know, yeah, we did it. Woo, yeah, you guys
Upward
are
salute.
sweet. Yeah. It was funny, and you see a lot of these troopers with like, you know, unclean armor. Some of them, you know, some of the armor is like really dirty and dented, and then others are a little cleaner. There are a couple of officers in here, and I haven't heard anything yet, but I know that in the first season of Mando they did utilize members of the 501st, and I kind of wonder if they did that again
really?
in this episode.
Mm.
Yeah, because some of this is really, really cool. Some of it looks really great, but there are just so many different troopers in here. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, so many troopers that there definitely couldn't be any fights. I mean, why would they go up against that many troopers? That'd just be death, instant death,
exactly.
and they all disappear.
True enough.
90% of them.
So we're getting into a little bit more meat here, and I am very interested in this. But first, an aside. Did you know that Mayfeld's first name is Miggs?
I did not know that before this episode.
I didn't either. His name is Miggs Mayfeld.
And we probably did hear that the last time we saw him, but just kind of passed over it.
It was strange. It was very strange. You know, it's funny because I was looking up this guy's name, and it looks like he is a new character. Doesn't look like he ties into anything else, at least not that I can find right now. But Mayfeld sees an officer that he served under at one point, and this officer's name is Valen Hess. Again, doesn't look like we have anything in old, you know, either old canon or non-canon, so it looks like new character. Human. And we're going into the officers' like dining room or whatever, their chow hall, to access the terminal to get the information on Gideon. Mayfeld won't do it because he might be recognized. So Din Djarin does it. And there are two big things here.
Yep.
Let's go over Mando first. He removes his helmet and he allows several people to see his actual face. This is the second time we've seen Pedro Pascal take, you know, in the flesh. What do you think about that, man?
I think that it showcases two things, and they're major developments in his character that I really appreciate. First development, he's starting to realize that what Bo-Katan said was true, and that his sect is basically a cult, and that he is trying to make his own way. He's, you know, still following orders technically by trying to get the child to a Jedi, but he's not controlled by them anymore. Two, it just shows how important Grogu is to him compared to what he has lived his entire life. So this is it's an epic moment, actually. It's just, it's a shock. It really was a shock.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we kind of there was kind of a feeling that yeah, we're gonna get an unmasking again, But Mayfeld puts this out there to him. It's like, sometimes you're just going to do what you have to do. And it's very clear that he's, the kid is everything at this point. And I also think you're right that seeing the other Mandalorians, including Bo-Katan, and saying, well, they called us a cult. And they're clearly Mandalorians. And Boba Fett is something.
Slightly.
He owns the armor. Let me put it to you that way. So I thought it was actually really interesting. I was surprised that he didn't put his helmet back on, though.
Instantly.
Yeah, he had that darn thing on for this entire scene. And I was, okay, to back up a little bit, you have to have your helmet off in order to access the terminal because it's face print recognition. Which, okay.
Why would he be able to do this?
Nitpick. Slight nitpick. Why would any face work? Is it just like a record and it doesn't matter? It's not an access. It's just like to keep a visual record. Yeah, that was a little nitpicky because you would have thought that they would have locked that out to only authorized personnel. But no, it's just anybody's face. You just have to show your face, I guess, as a visual record. So that was a little But yeah, man, he's there. His face is out there. Mayfeld knows what this guy looks like. Miggs freaking Mayfeld knows what this guy looks like.
Even makes the comment, never saw your face at the end.
Yeah, and again, I think that's a huge retool of this character, making him an actual human being.
Last episode, he would have either exploited that or made fun of him for it, and he actually acknowledges how important that is to him and shows a lot of respect to him in that way.
Yeah, this part of the episode I love so much, and let's get into my favorite episode. This does not make me a psychopath, okay? This does not make me insane. I'm saying it is so good, though.
Yes.
Our
this
chat.
This one of the best scenes in all of Mandalorian.
Yeah.
By far, season 1 and 2.
Yep.
And let me ask you, did this scene remind you of any specific movie? Is there anything you could pull from for this?
There was. I don't have it in my mind right now. We'll talk about it though. But I did have something in my head. But let's just set the table a little bit. So Valen Hess, this officer. Let's see. Do we have a rank? Doesn't look like a rank was written down where I'm looking at here. I'm sure if I don't know, I could. It doesn't matter.
Very well acted, by the way.
Yeah, he was. God, what a portrayal. Let's. Okay, so Hess confronts Din Djarin as he's at the terminal, and basically he recognizes that the two of these guys brought in the first, crawler for, I don't know, the only one that survived that day. Let's put it to you that way. So it's a big deal, and he wants to have a drink with them, but he's giving him some crap, and he's like, what's your number or what's your designation? And what did he say? Like co-pilot, transport, co-pilot.
Yeah, he's like, no, what's your number?
Yeah, your TK. And then Mayfeld pops right in here to the rescue. Mayfeld to the rescue. Old Migging away. And, he comes over and he gives a number. He's like, oh, yeah, he can't hear.
Deaf.
He can't hear, blah, blah, blah. Making him seem kind of stupid.
Old brown eye.
Yeah, old brown eyes, which to me harkens back to some of the Men with No Name series with Clint Eastwood. He goes by a lot of things, like Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. He was Blondie. The bad guy in that was called Angel Eyes, the bad. So anyway, I thought Old Western when I heard the name. It's like, Brown, it's fine. So they do try and leave, and he's like, I didn't dismiss you. And then instead of like dropping some weird hammer, he's like, have a drink. This is such a tense moment. Like it was so good. And again, like Bill Burr is a comedian. But if Bill Burr can do this sort of thing on film, like I think he could do movies or something.
I agree.
because he obviously knew the backstory. He obviously like
He did his
believed
research.
in this character, like because the portrayal and kind of like throwing stuff back at this officer about Operation Cinder.
Big drop there.
What a drop, man.
Big drop.
So we learn that this officer and Mayfeld were a part of Operation Cinder on the planet Burin Cone, I think, is how we're saying this, which was a mining colony and was one of the planets that was obviously targeted by Operation Cinder. Apparently, from what I'm reading here, the surface was basically mostly uninhabitable, but the population was contained in a few different areas. We had a Imperial Governor Ubrick Aldehard. I don't know. So there's a little bit of lore. I'm not going to go real deep into this, but it's a mining colony, and it was destroyed. And Mayfeld also brings forward here. It's like, so was my unit. We're talking about tens of thousands of people. And I was talking a bit with some other folks about this, but you know, Operation Cinder, we heard more about this in like Alphabet Squadron with Erica Quell being a part of Operation and actually taking part in it. Mayfeld is a little bit more ambiguous. He seems like he was just stationed there. He didn't actually he wasn't privy to Cinder. He just knew that was happening. So he probably escaped.
And there was a lot of emphasis on that in Alphabet Squadron. It's like the longer you lasted in Operation Cinder, obviously the more terrible of a person you were. So it really brings up the question, how long did he last before he left the Empire?
Yeah.
Obviously now we know it's after this, but how long was the operation and what did he have to do in it?
Yeah. So there's a couple quotes just here on the page that I thought I'd shout out here. The guys I served with, civilians, those poor mud scuffers, which is kind of a throwback to Solo, died defending their homes, fighting for freedom. Was it good for them? And then, but we've outlasted them, son. They're eating themselves alive. The new republic is in disarray, and we grow stronger. And then we have, I didn't think they were going to do this in this way, but it was so good. And it doesn't make me insane. It doesn't make me anything, but it was so good. Mayfeld pulls his blaster and just executes us.
Yeah.
My God, he just blasts the living crap out of him.
Yeah. Big, old gold.
I mean, what?
It was so satisfying.
Because
it's
you hate
Jarn's
this guy.
The entire time's like, don't do it.
I know.
Don't do it. I know you're going to do it. Don't do it.
But even in this small little window, I hate Hess with a passion.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
This
he is
guy,
everything wrong with the Empire. Everything. He is the embodiment of the entitlement of every Imperial that made the rebellion a thing.
He relished in Operation Cinder.
Yes. Yeah. He is the type of officer that Erica Quell was talking about when she said, if you didn't leave at a certain point, you deserved everything that came to you. You were just the embodiment of evil at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. He again, real good standing ovation for not only the scene, but the portrayal. And I should probably also look at the actual actor's name. What do you think?
Probably would be worth it because he's a great
Brake.
actor.
I don't know who Richard Brake is, but let's look him up here and see.
It was an odd accent too for an Imperial officer, didn't you think? Just a little bit, not really the standard British, but more. It was almost like he would be considered an Outer Rim accent.
Well, there is
sloppy.
a lot there. Yeah, you're right. I mean, there's a lot that has the almost like British accent from the core. So yeah, he clearly wasn't from the core worlds necessarily. Let me roll.
This scene actually reminded me a lot. I mentioned it earlier. In Inglorious Bastards, there's a scene at a bar.
Yeah, okay.
And
Yeah,
this,
thank you.
I couldn't stop thinking about that through this entire scene. It's like, I'm not saying they copied it or anything, but it just had that vibe, and it was so
You're
satisfying.
not saying they copied it, but he copied it?
In a way, but it had that vibe, and it was just so satisfying. Just reminding you of why you're doing what you're doing. Just actually looking into the face of evil in a way.
So, a couple things about Richard Brake. First and foremost, he was a Night King in Game of Thrones.
Really?
Yep. He's done quite a bit. He's got some credits here. Let's see. Yeah, Doom, Kingsman. I guess he was in Hannibal. Is this the series? No, that was one of the movies. Looks like. Couple of TV shows: Sanctuary, The Royals. He's in an episode of Supernatural, that's fun. Yeah, so I mean, quite a bit here and there. So that's kind of cool. He seems to have some pretty good resume of stuff. Just
The pool of actors in this show is very impressive, really.
Well, and here's the thing. Instead of getting a bunch of like random comedians like we sort of did in the first season, we're getting a lot of these more interesting actors. And God, Brake just has a face. That is a memorable, not a rememberable, a memorable face. Like that guy's made for horror movies. That's so funny. So funny. Okay. But yeah, the portrayal, the shot, the whole thing was just it was well done. Well done. Let's see here. So as we move on, we do our escape, which my God, couldn't have gone any better.
Yeah, definitely the perfect escape. We had no issues whatsoever. Perfect aim from our assassin and Kara. What'd you think of the sniping in this?
I actually thought it was pretty cool. Part of
it's almost slow motion, the time between actually firing and you could see the bolt travel pretty slowly. It was kind of cool.
Mythbusters did something on this a long time ago. Technically, if we were doing these energy bolts, for you to see the bolt in that form and fashion would actually be extremely hard. It would actually be going very slow for you to be able to perceptively see the bolt. So it's definitely movieism, but it's very cool. But yeah, the time it took for the shot and and the connection was very interesting. And again, distant shooting, that's what happens. If you're shooting with regular firearms, that's exactly what happens. Sometimes you hear the shot and then the ping type of deal, especially if again, it's long range. So I thought it was cool. I thought it was very neat, and Kara and Finnick obviously have some respect for each other due to their marksman ability. But yeah, we get the pickup on the roof with Boba. But yeah, what an escape! No issues whatsoever. I could have sworn one of them was going to get shot. Mainly Mayfeld.
Yeah, well, there's even a part when they're jumping onto the ship. It's like, just because of the way they shot, it's like he's going to get shot halfway through the jump and fall or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's almost like they constructed this entire scene saying, you know what we need? We need a moment of pure satisfaction just wrecking the Empire. That's what we need. A moment of them being all happy and friendly to you and then just destroying them. Which is what we get with the explosion. It's
right,
very satisfying.
Mayfeld gets to continue his revenge tour, and he shoots the canisters and got a nice explosion out of it. And of course, that gets an attaboy from Finnick and Kara, so that's fun.
And then we get probably the most satisfying thing we've seen in a long time for ship combat. We get Boba's bomb. And the slave one bomb with the perfect sound effect, and it was just all there.
That was sick.
So nostalgia.
Yeah.
So nostalgia.
Yeah, that was a great use of budget right there. The sound, the visual effect, and we get a couple of different angles of it too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was great. That was great.
Yeah.
No dog fighting at all. Just like, oh yeah, by the way,
we're not doing this.
Yeah, did you know I had bombs? So that was a lot of fun.
Probably not an economical use for a bomb, just destroying 2 TIE fighters when you think about it from a bounty hunter perspective, but very worth it.
I mean, how many bombs does he have, man? Maybe he's
probably
got
an expensive bomb.
Soon. Well, he gets his pack bombs like nothing, so ship bombs probably nothing.
Yeah.
Well, moving on here, potentially, I don't know, we might see Mayfeld again, but we do get a little bit of a repayment to Mayfeld where, Kara and Mando were talking. It's like, it's too bad, the prisoner died in that explosion on Morak. And you got to be thinking, going through this character's head, he's like, oh my God, are they going to kill me?
That's what I got from his facial expression. It's like, oh crap, they're shooting me.
Well, he says something like, should I leave? I mean, because I will. I will leave. I thought that was cool. It's a good sound.
I don't know, just the way he walks off is really goofy, comical to me. I enjoyed it.
It was fun. I thought it was a fun little thing. And again, we could see him again. The setup's there, or he might be done.
Well,
might be done seeing him
probably
again.
not a lot of ships on this world, so.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, did they leave him?
The worst place to leave him.
Well, hold on. See, the thing is, did they leave him on Morak, or were they on another planet at that point?
True.
That's I don't know. This final scene, I'm not 100% sure if I'm all in on it or not.
This is not what I expected out of the final scene, and to me, it's a bit odd.
It feels more like something we would see in like Clone Wars than what we would see in this, at least judging by the tone. And I'll tell you what,
it's just not that big of a hit. It's just.
Well, it all depends.
Sending a warning to somebody, I don't know.
Well, my only thing is that it changes the way I think about the end of this season and what next season's going to look like for me, judging by the reaction. So let's just go through this. We have, anyway, our one officer that we've been featuring quite a bit here.
Baggy clothes.
Yeah. I really wish they would have given her a slightly better cut to that uniform. Because, I actually looked her up on Instagram at one point, and God, she is fit. She looks like she could beat the crap out of me 100 times over. So, and I think I should be a little bit more respectful and kind of figure out her name and kind of give that a plug. See if I can find her really quick. Because like I said, I looked her up. And then I just it's just out of my mind what her name is. I don't think they even give her a name in the show.
No, I don't believe she has a rank either, does she?
Well, she has a rank. I just
do they give her a rank? Okay.
I mean, I think she's a lieutenant. I really wish that I could look things up better. Like if I could just utilize Google a little bit easier, that would be sick. Here maybe as a cameo guide. This is so cool for you guys to sit here and listen as I try and find one random actress that obviously isn't going to be in this particular article, which is super duper cool. Anyway, I'll continue to look, but let's just talk about the reveal here. So we get Mando leaving Gideon a message, which is very reminiscent of his speech, which they recapped in the beginning of this. You have something I want.
Yeah.
Old Esposito. He's so cool. But anyway, so we have this speech basically like, I'm coming for you, man. And I thought the reaction of Gideon was, that's what caught me. Not so much the message.
Why is he so worried? You know?
Yeah. Katie O'Brien. That's the actress's name. That's who I was thinking about. And she is, she was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. too.
Oh, really?
I don't remember. Yeah, it looks like she's got a couple of Z Nation, the show, Walking Dead, couple of different things. She was on one of the Power Rangers a long time ago.
God.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that didn't kill her career.
Well, it is what it is. Yeah. So she is a martial artist. And I guess she does do some did some competitive bodybuilding at one point too. But anyway, I found her on Instagram really randomly, and I was like, oh yeah, that's who that is. Because I know a lot of people were talking about her, and it's like, I don't know who this is. So it looks like she was also in Westworld. So a couple of things. But anyway.
I should recognize her then. I do not.
I don't know if she was a big part. It just seems like in passing. But anyway, so she's got a couple of credits there. But we're continuing to see her, which is why I wanted to make a little bit bigger deal out of it. Because this is what, the second or third appearance. But it's the arms. It's like they look a little too long. It's like, man, just
the legs too. The pants are a little bit too long for it.
Well, just get that. I mean, officers' pants do have those baggy, almost like riding pants look, but like get a tailor in here, like tailor that suit. Let's give this girl some respect. Anyway, we have the speech. Gideon's his reaction to me almost seemed a bit fearful instead of like, if it were me, my immediate reaction was like, maybe giving Mando a little tiny, like a little crooked smile, like, oh, I'm ready for you. I'm ready for you here. You come on and get it.
Especially with how controlling he is to show that kind of reaction in front of his crew was a bit odd.
Yeah, and it makes me sort of think that here's my predictions for this, because I think we both sort of thought we're going to get a confrontation at some point between Mando and Gideon. I kind of feel like Mando's going to defeat him now, and it will make way for the next boss, which, to be honest, I kind of think is a bit of a waste of Gideon.
It would be. It really would be. I would like him to see he's already a multi-season villain, but a continuation with him, because there's really only one more person you can make the boss if we're going with the Empire. And I really don't know if I want to see Sloane.
Oh, I'd be cool with Sloane.
I want to see Sloane, but I don't know if I want to see a lot of Sloane.
I don't think that Gideon is connected to Sloane. I think Sloane's doing her thing.
I don't either, but who are you going to top Gideon with, really?
I mean, you can make up somebody else or just do Thrawn, but the thing is that I'm just... I don't know. It seems like, judging by the reaction, it just feels like either Mando's going to run out of time and this confrontation won't happen this season. They'll drag it on to next season. Or they're going to have the confrontation and then he's going to get if you thought I was bad, just wait until blah, blah, blah appears. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also...
How bad do you think Timothy Zahn would be if they made Thrawn the villain in Mando?
Well, I don't think he'd be mad. The only thing is, I did read an article, and basically he was saying that, they didn't call him about anything with Thrawn. But the issue is that I still think Thrawn is like gone with Ezra. I don't think that Thrawn is the bad guy here. And it's what makes my thought process so mixed right now, because if you axe Gideon, what do you do next season? And that's why I almost think that maybe I'm overreacting to just one reaction of a character. You know?
Yeah.
Maybe
Well, I
maybe
guess
he fights this Katie O'Brien. She comes out with she comes out and does all of her moves and stuff, and they fight it out, and Gideon escape for another day, Mando.
Well, here's a question too. If you kill off Gideon, and now we have potentially, we obviously have the spear, and there is a chance, not saying I want him to have it necessarily, but there's a chance he might keep the Darksaber. What if we had a melee combatant as our next villain, not the Empire, and it could be, potentially a Sith, or just someone who wields a lightsaber, not necessarily having to have force powers, but it being the Mandalorian, it wouldn't be so out there to think that he would be fighting a Jedi or a Sith.
Or you cut this as just being the Imperial remnant, and you start focusing on Mandalore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the cult, because we haven't heard anything from the armor or his other people that he was with. So maybe instead we deal with Gideon, we deal with this I would assume seemingly small Imperial remnant, and then we just go to Mandalore and we figure out that side of things.
Just thank God that the timeline does not permit Darth Maul, because that Filoni would want that.
I think Filoni did what needed to be done with Maul. I think I
agree.
Obviously, Maul was always a cool character, and I think that there was certainly a story to tell, and he told it. He told the story of Maul, and then he ended the story of Maul. I don't think you need to do anything more with it.
Which, by the way, just kind of jumping all around the place, Obi-Wan Kenobi actually would be the right timeline for the introduction of Maul, wouldn't it? The series. When does that take place in Rebels, their final fight? How old is Luke during that fight? I'm not sure.
I don't remember.
Probably the right timeline for
that. We're not
just
going to
a thought.
See. You're talking about the Obi-Wan? I doubt we're going to see.
Yes.
No. Maul was finished in
Yes,
Rebels. They're not going to rehash that in that series.
That's just they brought him up in Han Solo, and I just kind of wonder, or in Solo, and I just kind of wonder why they brought him up and we haven't seen him yet.
That was just to bring through the Crimson Dawn stuff, because he ran Crimson Dawn. So
right.
I think that was just a tie-in to things we already knew about him.
Could be. Just wonder why they would even, have his interaction with Kira.
Because he was still in charge
some other way.
He was still in charge of Crimson Dawn, and Kira was a part of Crimson Dawn.
True. But they mentioned finishing her training and everything. So the fact nothing's come from that yet. And I don't think we're going to, there's a chance we'll see Solo too. Sure.
Yeah.
But
legitimately, I just think that was Maul's. They didn't really go over Maul's Crimson Dawn stuff very much in the animated series. It was alluded to. I think that was just the height of his power with Crimson Dawn at the end of that movie. So, if they do anything, Kira might assume a higher position, but no, I don't think we're going to get any of that in Kenobi. I get the timelines are so shaky, but at any rate, let's go ahead and probably start trying to wrap her up here a little bit. So let's do some ratings. What final thoughts and ratings on this episode of Mandalorian? Oh, actually, hold on. Just kidding. The Believer. Who is the Believer?
Who is the Believer? Mm. I don't know. Go ahead.
Oh, I think it's Mando. I think Mando's the believer, and I think that this is the test of his belief.
As far as the helmet and everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically his faith. Yeah.
Yeah. True. Very true. Yeah, I kind of wondered what the symbolism of that title was. So yeah, that does make sense.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, ratings and final thoughts.
I have to give this one a 9.2. Not the best episode for certain, but definitely.
Well, I mean,
I
my
would say
God, if you're
top
going to lead
three.
off with not the best episode and give it a 9.2, it better be the best episode.
No, not the best episode of the series.
Gotcha.
Different way of saying it, I guess. Definitely not the best episode we've had, but I would rank it in top 3, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, very, very good episode. Well, one of the best acted. You know, we get bigger drops in some episodes that are better, but don't have the acting we see in this. This was extremely, extremely well acted, especially for being a comedian. You know, Bill Burr did an amazing job. Our Imperial officer did an amazing job. Just the emotion you get from Djarin was great too in this episode, in the small amount of time and the few words he spoke without a helmet.
Right. Yeah, I'd probably go pretty high. I think that the story. I wondered if this was going to be a throwaway episode. Obviously, you hope that every episode is going to be as good as the next. And I think with all the moments, you know, I mean, really, it's another fetch quest. You're fetching coordinates, so it's a covert op mission thing. So I think it was done extremely well. The acting, as you said, was obviously pretty darn amazing. We got a lot of really, really interesting little tidbits here and there, but nothing that's going to break the mold. You know, Bill Burr coming back and playing Mayfeld differently and having a really, really kind of cool little bonding thing with Mando was great. Having a team together, I think, was really cool. And yeah, I mean, overall, it was a really, really good episode. You know, had a little bit of cheese in it, which, you know, I think is the way it should be at times. So, what did you say? You said 9.2.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually kind of where I was going to. A good solid 9.2, I think, is there. It's just really good. It's just a really good episode. Yeah. It's one that I could definitely go back and watch a few more times and be very happy to have done it. So yeah, very good.
Did you like it more than the last episode?
I'm drawing a blank. What the heck was in the last episode? Why am I drawing a blank? Yeah, he was stolen. Okay, it's all coming back to me. I don't know. I completely.
Were you thinking there was an episode in between the theft of the child?
No, for some reason I just instantly flashed back to Ahsoka because that was my favorite episode. It's like, yeah, but that wasn't the last episode.
Right.
Was it better than last episode? I think I don't remember.
Obviously for different reasons.
I don't remember what I rated that. I feel like it was in the 8s. I should probably write these down so I don't contradict myself. But to be honest with you, this isn't professional. I don't really care if I contradict myself. Yeah, I think this episode was better than the prior episode.
Yeah, I would have to agree.
Yeah, last episode was really cool. You know, you had the, you know, Boba's reveal, getting back his armor. You know,
how'd you like that meme I sent you about Boba? Did you see that?
I know that I've seen it.
The reveal with him in his armor.
Let me see if I can look that back up here. You've sent me a couple. I don't know, dude. You've sent me a few. I don't see one with just Boba though.
It would probably be under TikTok.
Okay, then I don't think I watched that one because TikTok is evil. It's an abomination.
Oh, well, no, hold on. You need to show your reaction to it now then.
No, I don't want to, because I can't listen
you
to
have
it. I can't listen to it on here. I can't give
Yeah, you
these
can.
people. No, I can't give these people credit because TikToks are. It's a terrible thing. Okay.
They are terrible, but this is a pretty entertaining TikTok.
Well, I can't subtitle it. I'll think about it later. Did you make this? Was this you who made this on TikTok?
No, I did not. I'm not a creator on TikTok.
I'll watch it. I do remember that coming through. I didn't get to watch it. I'll watch it a little later, but anyway. So, folks, hopefully you guys enjoyed the episode here, a little dual episode. Hopefully you guys are continuing to enjoy The Mandalorian and are getting hyped with all the news. Here before too long, we'll be back in the books. Here before too long, we'll be finishing up Mandalorian.
We got another week for that, and then 3 weeks until we start focusing on the books. So.
Yep. So
better watch Resistance quickly.
Yeah. I think we'll have to talk about it a little bit, but we might, get Resistance out there, and I think there's a ton we could do. So, but yeah, Mandalorian is very, very quickly ending, and we are, going to be jumping into High Republic. We'll see what next year brings, but Star Wars is never ending. It never ends. So hopefully you guys enjoy.
Shown proof of that, but God, this was a 30-minute episode if you cut out the recaps, the intro, and all the credits. That's crazy. 30-minute episode is one of our favorites. It's extremely short, but there was so much in it.
Well, I mean, I've talked with a few people about this, but they're doing a very linear storyline. They're not doing a bunch of side quests and other characters doing stuff at the same time.
Well, it's like just the village episode where they had to defend the village. They had to put a lot of time into actually setting that up and introducing new characters, which we didn't have to have here. So it makes sense. It's just weird. So used to the 45-minute ones, and now they're more entertaining and they're even shorter. So I'm just hoping we get a good long season finale, at least an hour.
Yeah, we shall see. But we're well set up. But anyway, folks, make sure to follow us on all the socials at TC Plan Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, all that good stuff. We don't do Instagram for this show, and I don't really feel like it either, so it's not going to happen. But if you're listening, obviously you found us on a podcasting platform, but we should be about everywhere. Listen to us on wherever. We're everywhere. But anyway, I'm getting tired. I know you were nodding off here a little bit, even though you just blacked your camera, so I can't see your face. But you were nodding off again. So I'm getting tired. It's about ready for a noon nap. Some munchies and a noon nap.
3 o'clock.
Yeah, 3 o'clock. I got to get some
time for bed.
I got to get some food because I haven't had lunch today. So I'm gonna eat and then probably take a little midday nap on the couch on a Saturday, which sounds awful nice to me. But yeah, folks, if you really, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear your opinions on the show. We get them every now and again, but again, social media is a good place to go, or you can send us, an email, tcplanpodcast@gmail.com. Love to hear from you. And if you'd like to support the show, check us out on patreon.com. So you guys have a great rest of your week.
And as always, may the Force